Welcome to the Law Dad Podcast, brought to you by Pritchard Injury Firm. I'm Zach Pritchard, business owner, lawyer, husband, and one very tired father. Today on the podcast, we've got Dr. Alan Barnes.
Dive into the heart of law and life with The Law Dad, Zach Pritchard, your guide through the world of injury law in North Georgia and Tennessee, where law, life, and leadership meet.
Today on the Law Dad Podcast, I am super excited. We have a Cartersville legend here. The single best quarterback, I can't believe it, to wear number 16 at Cartersville High School. The best, by far. Dr. Alan Barnes. Doc.
Dude.
The best.
Coming out hot.
I love it.
I gotta throw some love to my man Trevor though, because everybody knows. So funny you mentioned that. So I've already decided, girl dad with you, two daughters, Lily and Audrey. Lily's about to be 6, hasn't gone to a football game yet. 16 hasn't been retired yet. It's gonna be, and I already know that one day when it's hanging up there on the scoreboard or whatever, Daddy, is that for you? Who's to say, baby? Who's to say? We're just going to let it ride. I did wear the number. We'll just say, who's to say?
My favorite 16. I mean, you're right. T-Law is incredible, but love Alan Barnes for sure, man. So, Alan, a whole lot of stuff to talk about. I've known you forever, since we were in the single digits. So now that we're, like you said, both dads, got a lot going on, business owners. Let's start with, just tell us, for the people who don't know you, a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So yeah, born and raised here, known you since Rudy York, like you said,
That's
in Middle
right,
League. And it's so much fun to be I call us Cartersville Originals. You and Alexis definitely fit into that boat, where it's so fun to just be from your hometown, and I love Cartersville, obviously, and Bartow County. So literally live in the house I was raised in, as corny as that is, bought it from my mom, and a mile from Main Street. 2 daughters, Lily and Audrey, my wife Carrie. We're celebrating our 10th anniversary this year.
Nice, dude.
And this is our 5th work anniversary, I guess, for our Georgia Direct Family Care, for our private practice. It's been fun and big milestone, and excited. Just kind of these days, spend our days, activities, school, bedtime, doctoring, little golfing, little yard work, some traveling, survive, and then trying to enjoy it. So we're having a ball though. We've been really blessed, and life is really good. So
yeah, man, you're so right. And I mean, obviously, yeah, like I said, I've known you since then, and to see all that hard work pay off, and to get you into a position, and we're going to talk about it in just a minute, but just talking about overall happiness and what does that mean, and some of these concepts that I think every dad, mom, whatever out there listening struggles with from time to time. And so it's been so cool, man, to see your practice, to come in and start the direct family care, right? So tell us a little bit about that. What is direct family care? What is what do you do?
So at the risk of sounding kind of California-y, I guess it's a movement, I guess, it sounds funny for me to say that. Direct family care, direct primary care, if you're at home and Googling it, I definitely recommend, looking for somebody in your area that does it. Basically, it is hopefully the best of both worlds between like concierge medicine and kind of how medicine, the old-fashioned way is how we say it, where you get that personal relationship with your doc. It's a monthly membership. You get my cell phone number, or whatever, mine or the doctors at the practice you're in. You get that more personal touch. You walk in the door and you say, "Hey, Zach, how's the girls?" And not, "Hey, sir, I'm Dr. Barnes." And you say, "Yeah, dummy, I've met you 25 times.
It's great to meet you."
Exactly.
Like, yeah, okay.
I'm sick. I'll see you in 3 weeks. What the heck? I'm gonna be, So that's the idea behind it, is the more accessibility and everything. And then on our end, I'm a doctor and I'm also a patient at other times. And
true. Yeah.
I've spoiled myself with how I try to treat my patients, where it's not fun when you call to make an appointment and it's a month out or 2 months out, or you wait for a couple hours in the waiting room for 6 minutes with the doc and stuff. So but I can tell you on the doctor side, we also don't enjoy that and it didn't feel good. And that's why I got out of corporate medicine. I was with a hospital-owned practice for 3 years before.
Yeah.
And it wasn't fun when I'd walk in and I'd see you and you'd have your paper in your hand. It's like,
Yeah.
oh no, like
Yeah.
I've got 5 minutes and he's got 6 things on that paper, and have to say, hey, Zach, can we cover 2 things? It felt terrible because I know that your time's valuable, your copay, all that stuff.
Sure.
But also knew there was 8 other rooms full, and I'd hear the doors opening and closing, and that as a doc is like that's like nails on a chalkboard where you know you're in trouble when everybody's looking for you. And so for me and for most docs, I wish that more docs would do it, because if I can do it, anybody can do it. Like it's, business is relatively, I mean, make more than you spend. It's rule number 1. Anybody can run a business. Just be smart about it. Be careful. But so many docs are the self-confidence is so surprising and sad that I have to tell them, like, you can do it. Like, if I can do it. And so I hope more docs will get into it and keep the movement going.
Yeah.
And so that's basically it in a nutshell. But I love it. I'll never go back. I love knowing my patients, and I love everything about it.
That's awesome, man. I mean, it is a cool, I mean, obviously I don't even mind saying it. Of course, I'm your patient. So, it's just really cool because largely, which is good, if I do what you say and try to watch what I'm eating and all this other stuff, like I don't need you, which is good. That's the goal, right?
Right.
But it's cool, man. I really, I got to tell you, certainly as your friend and your patient, I thought, man, I hope he didn't get too overwhelmed. I hope it doesn't take off so much to where he's not able to be responsive. And that's never happened, really. And that's across the board. I know you have got like a following of people that are like knocking on the door, let me in, doc, which is, I got to respect you a whole lot, man, because, it is easy in business to just take on everything and just try to figure it out. And then your customer service and that, like you said, that intimacy, knowing your client, knowing your patient, it goes down. And we could struggle with that too, but we tried to kind of do the same thing here, and is so you can service everybody properly. So no, that's super cool. So, here's the one question. I know you've kind of got it into kind of a mode. What does, when you are styling your week, right? Yeah. Do you have like a set? I know you got hours and all that stuff, but like, do you ever have to like plan your full week out, or is it already planned for you? Like, how does it take us through Doc Barnes's week?
So Doc Barnes's week is different. So, at a typical practice, you're going to have that, person checking you out at the end saying, okay, now we got to make your 3-month follow-up, because they want you to come back because they need your visit. And, and you probably do need to follow up. But with my folks, the follow-up could be a text or a phone call, so we don't do like the, mini month follow-up. So usually my, week, it's really day by day. Some days, I have a couple set stuff that people wanted to set up in advance. Most of the time, about 8 o'clock, so we just start getting texts of, hey, throat hurts. And sometimes it's stuff where you can just handle it. They don't want to come in. I'm like, yes, awesome. We're in Panama City. I forgot my blood pressure pills. Can you send them down? Hey, we're in Panama City. Got stung by a jellyfish. What can we do? Hey, rolled my ankle. I'm heading to the ER. Whoa, why? Don't do that. Like, help save them from a visit, And so really it's interesting. So if I know, we've got things going on, and thankfully, being a dad, the most important thing and the whole purpose of leaving the corporate medicine was to be around for my girls, and be around with Carrie and everything. And so last week we had a pre-K graduation on Tuesday and a ballet recital. And so I made sure to block those times off, which is, y'all know, you and Alexis know, being the boss, one of my biggest reasons I could never go back is somebody telling me when to be somewhere, when. And so I could say, well, Tuesday at 10 o'clock, I'm going to be at pre-K graduation, and phone's on silent. I'm there if somebody needs me. Hey, literally during it, hey, I'm sorry, I'm in pre-K graduation. I'll call you right back. And so when I know I have certain family things, it's good to be able to block off time, but then just to make it up an hour later, 2 hours later, or something like that. So long answer to your question is, really, I never know how my week's going to go. It just kind of is fun. And I like that. I like the variability. That's probably why I'm a family doctor too, is, the joke is
know what you're gonna see.
A little bit about a lot, So I like that. I like the excitement and the change and the kind of never knowing what your day is going to be like. And some days I'm heading to the nursing home. Y'all see me walking around Main Street with white paper bags, delivering medicine, So it's fun. So I really enjoy the variability, and no week is the same. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's super cool. Let me ask you this: did you? I know I did. Coming kind of the same deal, working for a really good law firm out of Marietta. I really enjoyed working for them, but family's here, family's everything. So came back here. I really, in building the practice, have struggled with the work-life balance, at times, and trying to really focus on being present, right? Being where your feet are. So, did you struggle with that at all, or did you say, "Hey, I'm out, I'm good, I'm fine"?
So I'm laughing because I'm picturing like a situation where a patient's in and they got bronchitis and they're coughing, and I'll say, "Zach, do you need any cough syrup?" And before you can answer, Alexa says, "Oh God, give him something." So I'm picturing if Carrie was here, what she would say of me getting better at putting the phone down, being present.
Yep.
And it's really, so yes, I have struggled and I am getting better. And it's all self-induced. I mean, because you're like me.
Absolutely.
We want to do a great job. You want people to feel like you are giving them the attention that they deserve and that they're, hiring us for and everything. But at the same time, I haven't had one person ever be upset when I texted 20 minutes later instead of right away.
Sure.
When I should have put the phone down and blown bubbles with Lily, or done something. And I've been really trying to be better about that. And with your girls being a couple years older than mine, y'all are getting really, really close. And I know that it's right around the corner to where the script's going to be flipped, and they're going to have the phone in their face, and I'm going to say, "Look at me, look at me, look at me."
Yeah, exactly.
And so I try to remind myself of that a lot, where I want to set a good example. And I want to be there. And so yes, I've gotten much better about putting the phone down, check it just more periodically, because it's and technology is such a blessing and a curse.
Exactly right. I couldn't have said it better.
It's so neat how much our fields overlap, but where you're thankful for the ability to email and to call and text, but sometimes it can be detrimental where you got to not look for a bit or triage the text.
It's so hard, like you said, it's so hard because we all live in a digital age, right? And especially in personal injury, the same thing. Like, there is so much aggressiveness. All these larger, firms are pouring all these crazy messages down people's throats, and a lot of folks don't know better. And so I very much am aggressive and all this other stuff. And so when you get that random text at 8 o'clock, from an old client or something like that, you're like, man, I got to do it. And I think that's just the same thing, blessing and a curse of being in a service-based industry that we both love. You love what you do. It's clear, when you come and sit down in your office, you're happy. When I come in here into the office, I'm happy. I love it. I love my job. And I'm blessed to be able to do it. So it's hard, like you said, to say, I got other jobs, right? The big job of being husband, dad, all that kind of stuff, and setting that precedent, because you are right. Our kids are still letting us hang in there. They still love to spend time with us, but there is going to come a day very, very soon where, hey, I'm running off with so-and-so. Hey, I want to go here. Man, I'm not looking forward to that. So
they better be running off with Paige and Avery. And
I know.
That's what I want them running off with. I want to run off with.
Oh no, I know, man. You screen the friends, right?
Is it?
All right, so let's talk about a subject that I can just go ahead and tell you is almost overwhelming sometimes. Let's talk about some men's health stuff. All right. You and I both are in our 30s, approaching kind of 40, and I think the most sobering part for me is now we're into that age category that I thought we wouldn't reach, right? Things start to change. So talk about that for that 35 to 45-year-old segment. What are some good guidelines? I mean, whatever you want to say. I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, no, and it's really important, and you're right. I mean, it is weird because before I look in the mirror, I expect to see old 18-year-old Alan looking back, and it's like, oh, where are those crow's feet come
Who's this
from?
guy?
And, who's this guy?
I know. I do it every time.
And we often do put ourselves second, or third or whatever. And typical guy, it's fine, everything's fine until you get the man flu, and then it's, dad's out, and moms are calling me, get his butt back up to work,
That's right.
But and chronic things can sneak up on you. And so generally a good rule of thumb that I've learned over the years is, at 30 is really when you need a family doc, and just to check in, and hopefully, for most of us in our 30s, early 30s, healthy and nothing's wrong, but just good to once a year, get the blood work done, get your blood pressure checked, stuff like that. 35 to 45 is certainly a really important age, and things are better, obviously. Life expectancy is great, but we're starting to see some things earlier that are starting to get kind of scary, or very scary. Colon cancer, yeah, on the rise. Skin cancer issues. Just kind of everybody's been affected almost by cancer, and so a lot of guidelines are changing. Like colon cancer, just in particular, classically has been 50. Some groups are starting to come down to 45. I'm not be shocked in a few years when it's at 40. Breast cancer, unfortunately, people in their 30s are getting it now. So being mindful of your screening, I think, is very important. And that's, where a family doc would come in to just kind of guide you and say, okay, now you're at this age, or with your family history, be a good idea to do this. And there's so many cool things we can do now with technology. There's a new heart scan that can check for calcium in your arteries, and
that's cool.
Thinking that if there's some calcium, there could be some plaque, and we've caught some early, hopefully caught a heart attack before it happened, and that's great. Wow. So yeah, between 35 and 45, definitely is when you want to start at least once a year, having the doc to just guide you with your either personal history, what's already happened, or family history, what you may need to do things earlier, and catching things that you may not know your blood pressure is running a little high.
Yeah, you're right.
Some people don't feel it, and that's dangerous. Or you may not know that snoring is bad.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous.
Yeah.
And can lead to some other health problems. And so we don't try to, I always tell people, I'm not trying to find stuff and create issues, but,
Well, I think, and we were talking about that. And I mean, that goes back to weight issues and stuff. And I'll just be candid. I'm first, and especially when you get sucked in as a lawyer, you're litigating, you're meeting with clients, you're writing pleadings, you're doing all this crazy stuff all the time, right? A lot of it is very sedentary, and you're just cramming stuff down your throat just to feel satisfied, because it's 3:00, you haven't eaten anything. And if you're getting something like that, chances are you're not being active. It's not the best quality stuff for you anyway. And I have certainly put on some weight and have tried a little bit recently to kind of just mitigate some of that stuff. So talk us about it. So, hey, listen, you get somebody that's in our age range. They might say, oh man, I got about 20 or 30 I need to lose. What's a good approach, just from what you've seen clinically, to kind of start that journey?
First off, you look awesome, and there's no doubt in my mind you could go out and throw a complete game 3-hitter right now,
God.
guys.
Alan, my God.
I don't know about the split finger this man has. So, yes, and especially for me and you, except for my guys that are, in construction, or the folks that are lucky where their job is active and they're just getting to work out like by nature.
Yeah, landscapers.
Exactly. Yeah. Not all of us do that. And I tell everybody, I say, with my air conditioned cush job as well, I'm not burning calories thinking and writing, and saying. Right. So, yes. So number one, the key, one of the keys is, considering, calories in, calories out, and that's kind of where I tend to start thinking, even personally, what are you doing during the day to be able to burn some of those calories? There's the 60-minute guideline where you try to get 60 minutes of activity in. When you're a full-time professional business owner, kids, good luck. It's you're trying to find the time. But really trying to be cognizant of kind of the snacks and what you're eating.
Yeah.
To your point, it's so much easier and convenient to grab something fast food, have something DoorDashed over.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Versus getting your bowl of chicken and broccoli that you meal prepped on Sunday, that you had all the time in the world to do that, right?
And so one other thing too with that, and I hope I'm not the only one, but my big thing, I got to be straight. Yeah. I feel entitled. Right? I'm like, you work so hard and you give so much of yourself. You should be able to eat whatever you want.
Treat yourself.
Right? Whatever, without consequence. And the unfortunate part is, as I've started to kind of change my diet up a little bit, and it's interesting how certain things I'm now sensitive to, I don't feel as good or satisfied when I eat.
No.
And so I'm kind of like, okay, this is going to be easier to give up the cookies. I slammed 2 cookies last night, and I haven't had something like that in probably like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It was so unsatisfying.
Yes.
So thank God. And I'm not going back because I'm sure the old sugar train will hit me again.
Oh yeah.
But like just little bitty things like that, man. I mean.
No. And to your point, first of all, I mean, not being 18 anymore. And this is something that women, definitely men and women equally struggle with it. But I mean, guys too have that more egotistical side, I guess, and everything. And, you know, the realization that we're not 18 anymore and that 1 quarter pounder does hit different.
It does.
Sticks around a lot longer, you know, versus when we could eat the pantry and not put on any pounds.
Absolutely.
And so that's something to also be aware of, you know, that our metabolism changes, and it's supposed to, but, you know, it's just part of it. But be aware of that. And then to your point too about the mentality of eating, and it is interesting that we all know when we go to the Chinese buffet, we're going to feel horrible.
Yeah.
But dang it, if those
It's
sesame chicken isn't so good.
Crab rangoon.
Crab rangoon with extra red sauce.
I know.
If you want to go for lunch today, I would probably go. And then I would
I know it feels
be
terrible.
worthless for the afternoon.
I know.
And we know that. But it's so hard to fight that. And that's, I don't know, and that all comes down to the, you know, kind of the chemicals and you know, the companies know it.
Yeah.
There was actually a really interesting study I was just reading the other day where they took the same group and did a 4-week study, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. 2 weeks, they ate natural, unprocessed food, 2 weeks, processed food. When they ate the natural food, on average lost 2 pounds and took in less calories because they were more satisfied. To your point about the cookies, and, you know, that when you're eating the bag of Doritos, you get that endorphin rush of, but then you're still hungry because it's not really as nutritious and filling you up. And when they ate the unprocessed the processed food for 2 weeks, on average gained 2 pounds and were eating more because they weren't getting the same fuel, I guess, so to speak. So that's something that, again, it's easier said than done. And it really ties in. I'm not sure, but, you know, it just seems like something's up with this, going back to the colon cancer, you know, something's up with the way that we're eating. I used to always talk about my granddad, who lived to be like 94 years old, from Alabama. Yeah. And I was like, how did Papa live that long? He always eating large sandwiches. Maybe large sandwiches was better than hot dogs and, you know, Doritos and Cheez-Its that we eat. And maybe that was even better just because it was real, because it was from the barn outside. It was from their own pigs and whatever. So I don't know. It is something, though, that I'm getting more interested in, as far as trying to eat an apple instead of a bag of Doritos. Or something.
I don't think, too, I mean, and I'm with you, man. I've really started to try to look into that stuff. You know, a guy, Gary Brecka, who's very famous for changing Dana White's life and doing all those things, and he keeps it very, very simple. I mean, he's like, listen, you know, there are a couple tests that you can kind of see what your body's deficient in. Put it back in. You don't need all this extra crap. Just do a couple of things. And I think that's it. I mean, my grandmother was the same way. She, you know, grew up on a farm. She died at 93 as well. And, you know, it was like, how did she get to be that far? Because she didn't eat the quote unquote what I thought was best. I mean, she was high fat diet, loved protein, you know, wasn't afraid of those kinds of things. She cooked. You know, they were big farmers market people, you know, just simple stuff. And everybody used to always say, oh, don't put the butter in me, Mom. Don't know. She would say things to my mom and my sister, like, I'm going to write y'all out of the will because she wouldn't let her eat or whatever. She lived to be 93. It was crazy. So I don't know. I think you're right, man. I think a lot of the stuff that they're putting in, and I want to get your opinion on this too, because to kind of that point, you've been to Italy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We have too.
Yes.
That was not just from the beauty, but from the food aspect and health aspect was really eye-opening.
Right.
So what about your experience? Talk about that.
100%. I mean, you don't see big folks walking around or be driving around mostly because they are walking around, so much more of the walking and biking. I think that aspect of life helps them a ton. And then, like you said, they're so proud, rightfully so, of their food culture that they're not going out and they're making their pasta. They're making their sauce. They're making their everything, and they're eating that Mediterranean diet. If anybody, is out listening, if you want a diet to follow, the diet that wins year after year from a cardiac perspective is the Mediterranean diet. Yeah. And that's the olives, the fish, the pasta, the grains, and so I mean that I did definitely notice that over there, that so much better shape. They're in so much better shape than we are. And I think it is all that. I think they're better at maybe moderation than we are. There's not a McDonald's in every corner.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, right.
And I love McDonald's, but
me too. Yeah, but that's the problem.
Making, even if it's a pizza shop, they're making it probably themselves, and that matters a ton apparently. And and it's funny you mentioned Italy. Just had a patient this morning telling me about how I haven't vetted this, but that apparently in Europe they don't allow you to buy Cheez-Its and Ritz crackers.
Right.
Is that so? Have you heard this?
I heard that. Okay. Well, no, not from somebody, but I was on the internet and I saw that.
So I was like, oh my gosh, and that makes me want to not get Cheez-Its.
Yes,
sorry,
I would agree.
They're not a sponsor, but that
no,
but that they are onto something. That if it's not okay over there, it's not okay over here, and so but again, we took a pasta making class. It was awesome, but we don't have time to make pasta. You don't have time to make, it took an hour to make 5 little strands, you know? And so that's the thing that we run into, I think, is the time. And and that is a lifestyle thing, and kind of circles back to your earlier comment about happiness and how we put so much pressure on ourselves as Americans or adults or whoever, where contentment is really hard to attain and almost looked down upon. And that's been a word that's been really important to me this year, is being content and knowing that don't have to do all this extra stuff just to do what matters. And then you hopefully find you have more time. I haven't found the extra time yet, but trying to make it, And so it all circles back, I guess. But I haven't found time to make pasta yet, but that's on there too.
That's on the agenda.
I think it is good for you. Yeah.
I agree with everything you say. And I know in this topic, obviously, so we're talking about the physical stuff. This is a huge topic. So let's talk about, I'm going to use you as an example. Talk to us about the mental aspect of taking care of yourself mentally. What are you seeing, in kind of that same demographic? You're hardworking, you're breadwinning folks, 35, 45. What's on the rise? What's Doc seeing?
I'm so glad incredibly important. And I'm so glad you mentioned it, because mental health, it's been so, I don't know, neglected, stigmatized, maybe.
Taboo.
Taboo, yes, great word, yeah. For years and years, and especially for men, Carrie's joke is it's fine, everything's fine, that's who she said I have been for a long time. But that's kind of, I don't know, I don't say that's how we were raised, but kind of how we were raised. And certainly, generations before that, really bury all your feelings and don't have
suck it up mentality.
Suck it up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that would, if one good thing came from COVID, I felt like mental health got a little destigmatized and a little bit more okay to talk about and to mention it. And I've been thankful, because it's important. And as much as we put pressure on ourselves, both men and women, moms and dads, life's hard. And I joke a lot. If you, and everybody out there that has a doctor, that once you've been with your doc for long enough, you start hearing the same jokes over and over, because we only have so many. And so one lately that I've been saying is that, being an adult should come with a goodie bag, and it should have some Prozac and some maybe Xanax in there, for you.
That's right.
Because life is just hard. And, I hate when people compare with other people and stuff, because it doesn't matter. Everybody's got their stuff going on, and you never know what somebody's dealing with.
Yeah.
And so I do hope that anybody listening, watching, definitely, big proponent of talk therapy, getting with like a therapist, and and some of this stuff I need to practice as much as I preach. Like I'll piggyback on sometimes Carrie. I say, "What would so and so say if I said this?" And so Carrie often acts as my therapist, and thankfully we live in a day and age when we do have all this like great medication.
Sure.
I think back to movies that are based about the 30s and 40s when the men would come home and just start hitting the moonshine or whatever and beating their and being abusive, and they needed some Prozac or something. They needed
just to chill out.
Yes, but they weren't allowed to.
Right. Right. Yeah, you can't take that stuff or your crazy pills.
Yes.
Right. It's like,
oh my gosh. And so I'm thankful that we do, like I said, live in a time when we have a bunch of options, and so definitely encourage anybody, but especially, since Father's Day coming up and we're talking about men, like definitely if you're dealing or, having a hard time, know that you are, if anybody tells you they're not having a hard time, they're lying.
They're lying. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're lying.
And know
or you've been looking at their, Instagram account.
Exactly.
Like,
getting the filtered ones.
Yeah.
out.
Your life, I promise you, is not perfect.
100%.
No one's life is perfect.
No. So it is a very good time, and I'm glad you brought it up for real, to mention that take care of yourselves and to ask for help and to be open, and whether it's your doc or your friend or whoever, guarantee you that somebody's going through similar stuff to you or something where they can hopefully relate or talk to you at least, and that you're not alone. And that awful news this week about the PGA player that it's like
so tragic.
It is. And so please, if ever call me or call somebody.
Yeah, call. Yeah, absolutely.
But it's just sad because it doesn't have to. We have ways to help, and so.
Yeah, and that's what happens, man, is I think, so Alexis, of course, has the psychology degree, and I mean, I try to keep up on it as much as I can, but it just seems like, there's like a spiral, and it's like, man, we could stop the spiral, and you could realize it is going to be okay, but when you're in the moment, and you talk about, you made a great point too, man, about going and talking to a therapist or somebody who's a counselor or whoever you trust. I do from time to time and love it because it gives me a different perspective. And here's the thing. A lot of times, man, nothing bad's going on, but it just gives you, hey, what's going on in your life? How are you looking at this? How are you handling that? And you're like, and they give you little tidbits where you're like, oh, okay, cool. And so anyway, I completely agree with that for sure. I think that's the biggest thing. And I mean, me personally, one quick little anecdotal story. And I don't know if you remember this phone call, but all of this stuff is going on. I've got high anxiety going on. I'm stressed to the max. I'm trying to keep 5,000, balls in the air, servicing as many clients as I can, trying to be the best attorney I've always tried to be, and dad, whole thing. And I'm just, losing it in that I can't keep them in the air. And I called you and said, Alan, this is probably a call that should have happened 30 years ago, right? Because you've known me my whole life, right? And got on some ADHD type medication, which I've got a family history of it for sure, and it was just life changing, not personality changing. And that didn't change who I am, but it just helped fill in those gaps where it's like, now you can prioritize. You can hold this ball to the side. You don't have to juggle them equally. You can hold this one down here and you can focus on the one you need. Then you can pick that one back up and you can juggle it when you need to. And that to me was the biggest thing where I was like, God, why did I not have this, law school or something? But, either way, it's just, it's really cool, man. So
when I used to always, for sure. No, and I'm so glad. And that's the wonderful thing about family is you get that tangible, see that you can help, and it's wonderful. Yeah. And now I always used to pride myself as being a cool cucumber, and always having good blood pressure in residency, even, working 26 days in a row or whatever. But we all have our capacity and our limits, and apparently for your boy it's 2 kids and a business and a home and all the things that go with it, and 2 dogs and my wife's cat, not my cat, and then and I started not being myself and losing my temper and not being a cool cucumber. And it was August, and I told Carrie one day at dinner, we were trying to put on a different shirt for our youngest, for Audrey, and she wouldn't put it on, and it should be cute. And I just was, put your shirt on,
Put the shirt on.
Yes,
I know.
and I was like, oh my gosh. And so I went to dinner table and I said, I think I need to start some Zoloft or something. And it was August, and she said, I've been waiting since April for you to say that. I said, I'm sorry, I've been such a turd to live with for 5 months, or whatever it was. And like you said, I mean, and I always used to get tickled when I would, prescribe that for patients. And then I talked to them a couple of days later with their lab results, and, oh my gosh, that medicine's life-changing. It feels so much better. And I would think, oh, okay, placebo effect, because it's supposed to take like a week.
Right, yeah.
But it was true the next day.
Wow.
And it wasn't, like, to your point too about not changing personality. I tell everybody, I said, I don't want you to look and be like, oh, my house is on fire. Cool. I don't want that.
Yeah. You're not a zombie. No.
But it's, okay, she's not putting her shirt on. I've had a bad day, but it's fine. She's my cute little girl, and we're going to get that shirt on eventually. It's going to be fine. We're going to make it to whatever activity we have,
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, and I think us all going through this stuff personally is so helpful to both relate to people. It's definitely helped me as a doctor, hopefully, to, not always just say, well, oh yeah, you've got those problems, I've got these problems, I understand. But hopefully that helps to be more empathetic and to relate, has been really helpful for me to say, I know where you're coming from, and this medicine has helped me a ton. I hope it'll help you a ton, and go from there and just make, like I said, life's hard enough. Let's not make it harder, and if there's ways to make it easier, let's do it. And so I do hope that if anybody, is sitting there going, well, I've been meaning to get around to that, and maybe I've been a turd to live with, or something, or just not. Sure. And honestly, just not being. We all know who we want to be, and we all know who we're used to being. And so when you can tell like something's wrong, listen to that feeling and do ask for some help or talk to somebody.
It's funny too, man. And to your point, it's stuff that we just didn't know previously. A good friend of both of ours, Chris Bruton, obviously counselor.
Awesome therapist.
What a great guy, right?
Yes.
And he was talking to me just through. So there's always been this just kind of thing, but we didn't know what it was. He was like, do you ever see, of course, people that are afraid to get back in the car after a car wreck? It's like, yeah, almost every case, right? He's like, well, that's called adjustment disorder. I was like, what? So he went through the whole mental aspect and how he helps people overcome an adjustment to a trauma, right? When, 10, 15 years ago, we were just kind of like, hey, suck it up and get back in the car. Get behind the wheel. You're fine, And he was like, no. Literally, your mind as a survival mechanism, right, is trying to protect you. You have this trauma in this situation. It's trying to teach you, don't go back into it. Here's how I help people get over that, right? So it's just cool stuff that, like, the more you know, right? The more you know.
That's it.
Right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, so any plans? This is my last question for you, but any plans to expand your practice beyond Cartersville?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
No.
I had to ask, dude. I wanted to know.
Well, and it's so hard because I mean, and I don't.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know a lot of things that I sort of think or whatever are sometimes I'll tell you if they're like science based or if they're not, and this is not science based, but I really think there is something to us former high school studs, but former athletes, I guess, competitors, where you do always want to say yes, and it always,
you're right.
And as now we don't get to play baseball and football anymore, but now our business is sort of our
that way.
thing,
absolutely,
and so and you see ways to succeed, and so it is, you've been a big help to me, and a lot of other folks in town have been awesome to be like mentors, and to say. I don't know, just to the local other business owner, he always told me from the get-go, you control it or it controls you. So I've been really careful to control it being the business.
Yes.
And I've honestly, we've looked at ways. I mean, I know there's ways to grow, but I just right now I'm so happy and I don't want to mess it up and
don't
enjoy
don't.
Honestly, I've tell people with more than 2 kids and we have 45 minutes of ballet a week and feel busy. And I'm embarrassed to say it to you.
No, dude.
I know all the hours y'all spend at the soccer field and everything. And so I'll never complain to you or anybody with more than 2 kids. But yeah, so right as of now, I mean, maybe in the future when the girls get older and if I get bored, but right now. I'm just super happy. So that's what I'd really do. If there's any family docs out there, you want to become a DPC practice, holler at me and I'll be happy to walk you through it and help you start your own practice.
Nice. Yeah.
Because we need more. And but so I'm happy.
I love it, dude. Yeah. Well, many congrats. I love you. I love your family.
Love
and
you too,
I
man.
mean,
Love all y'all.
I couldn't thank you enough for your time, for your friendship, for your overseeing my health,
yes.
but for hopefully, somebody watching this, hopefully you've reached out and maybe touched a nerve to them too, and told them everything, a little bit of wisdom maybe they didn't think before. So thank you so much for coming today.
Love y'all too, and my pleasure, honor to be asked and to be had, and happy Father's Day to everybody out there, and have a great summer.
You the man. Thank you, buddy.
Stay connected with the Law Dad, Zach Pritchard, across all your favorite platforms. Dive deeper into the stories, insights, and behind-the-scenes moments that make the Law Dad your go-to podcast. Follow us on Facebook for updates and community shoutouts. Catch inspiring snippets on Instagram. Connect with Zach on LinkedIn for professional insights. And don't miss our exclusive content on YouTube. Find our social media links in the description of today's show. Follow us now on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube.
This show is for informational purposes only. It does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Please consult with a qualified professional before taking any action.